amazing philosophies we can take away today. I think that's the beauty of us coming together. I wanted to talk about was, I suppose, my journey, a little brief insight into the journey, into how I felt that martial arts and music have played a crucial role in how I've sort of developed as a person, I suppose. And my big desire to share, which I think has been the theme of today. We all want to share what we've learned and hopefully help others, bring the best out in themselves. But my journey started quite strange. I started to learn music first, so that was my first love, music. I was aged 5 and 6, and apparently I was a little menace, and I was terrifying the cows in the field to the point that the farmer came along and said, "Can you put restraints on your child?" And my mother said, "Yes, but she's only 2. He says, "I don't care how old she is," she said, "she's terrifying the cows." And when cows are in calf, apparently it's quite dangerous. So anyway, so that was my journey. And then eventually I tried everything. And I think I should have known my martial arts journey had started. Apparently I was quite strong. And they bought a big wooden playpen, pinned me in there, and it didn't keep me down. I just lifted it up and carried it around and destroyed all the furniture. So they had to find something else. And eventually my father, being a musician, bought a piano, and that was it. I loved it, and I was quiet. I found I could channel my energy, my spiritual energy, into creating songs. And it wasn't until I was age 13, 14, when my life suddenly changed, again, quite dramatically. I was actually attacked by 3 men. I was just walking home. It was a beautiful summer's evening, and out of nowhere, 3 men attacked me and tried to drag me to a car. But fortunately, one of the young men didn't want to be party to this. And this shows that sometimes peer pressure is very dangerous. I'm so grateful to that young man because it was his determination to go against what he was being encouraged to do that helped me escape, because I don't know what the outcome could have been. Now, bear in mind, this is a summer evening, lovely summer evening. There's people walking about. I'm saying, "Help, help," and everybody ignores me. So the lesson I learned that day was never to ever feel so isolated that I couldn't do anything, because you need to know you can do something. So I also learned I had no awareness. I didn't see them come up. They were just suddenly attacking me. So that was one big lesson we learn in martial arts, isn't it? To be aware. The second one was don't get surprises. Well, I was very surprised. And thirdly, learn how to get out of difficult situations and meet your challenges. So these are the lessons I learned that day. But the interesting thing is, about a year later, my brother, because we've mentioned Bruce Lee, you've got the Bruce Lee T-shirt on. Oh, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I have to thank Bruce Lee as well, actually, for my journey, because my brother went to see a Bruce Lee film. I think it was Fist of Fury. And he came home full of the joys of martial arts. And he wanted to join the club, so he joined a local martial arts club that did combination systems of Chinese and Japanese arts. And he came home and he thought, "Oh, I've got to practice these great skills. Who can I practice on? I've got a sister. That's who I practice on. I practice on my sister." So next thing you know, you've seen the Pink Panther? Kato and Clouseau? That was my home, right? So I'd come back from school and Clive would attack me from every conceivable angle. Next thing I knew, I have to protect myself. Oh, I know, I'll join. So I did. And that was my opening to martial arts. I went on a journey of doing this combined system, karate, Aikido, and then by accident, but I don't think it was accident. I think sometimes our spiritual path leads us somewhere. And I met somebody that started Iaido, the way the Japanese sword. I was then in my early 20s and I was fascinated. So Clive, my brother, we went along and he gave me a very old military sword that was very heavy and I was trying to cut and I couldn't. It was jingle jangle. Terrible, terrible techniques. But I just couldn't let it go. It was a real challenge. I just loved this sword. There was something about it. There was an energy in it that I suddenly found my whole body was changing. I felt this wonderful, I suppose you call it a spiritual calling. I couldn't do the art. I was dreadful, but I thought, I've got to carry on. In fact, you must listen to this. Sorry. This is my funny squeaky sword. So when sometimes we have students and not quite got it, I said, just remember this. Hit them on the head with this. Because I think humour is important. Fun and humour, you learn really well from that. So I just laughed at myself. I thought, yes, I can't cut. But am I ever going to be any good at drawing a sword? Probably not. But what a challenge. So I carried on. Anyway, as the years went by, I met this wonderful teacher called Akimitsu Fuji Sensei. He had a great personality, lots of laughter, and he was really amazing. And I started to learn from him, and then I was introduced to my then main teacher, Haruna Sensei, who was an 8th dan, that's one of the top in Japan. And he had the most beautiful spirit. And just to go a little bit further forward in time, I managed to progress in my arts. I still did my other martial arts, like Iaido, the karate, the jiu-jitsu and everything. But I was really hung on, maybe that's not the right word, but really attached to the sword. And I eventually managed to do my 6th dan. And I found I was on my own in Warwick University. And I was really nervous, really, really nervous. And I was practicing. And Haruna Sensei came up to me and he said 2 words, which I think has been quite interesting and a theme of today. He said, Kokoro Kumuchi, use your true heart and your true feeling. And those 2 words, I felt almost transformed in a way. So when I walked out, and bear in mind I'm using a live blade, live Shinken blade, 400-year-old blade, and I'm thinking, I hope I don't cut myself, and I hope I don't throw it and it goes to one of the judges. I definitely won't get McGrath in there. But I just performed with a true heart. And I thought, if I'm not deserving of passing, I won't pass. If I can hopefully display my true heart, we'll see what happens. And the lovely thing was, I did pass. And I remember when I'd finished my grading, because I was really, I suddenly found a transformation. I wasn't really that nervous, although before and after I was. But during the performance, you sort of transcend. And I think those that you do martial arts will understand what I mean when you have this sort of feeling that something is happening that you can't quite explain. So when I turned round and saw all these people, very much about 250 people watching my grading, and I'm the only one taking it. And I saw all these Cheshire cat grins. Everybody was smiling. I thought, what are they smiling at? Have I dropped my hakama or something? I kept looking round. And I walked off and they said, no, you should have got that. And I thought, I don't know. But the good news was I was successful. But I have to say, I feel in my heart, that was why I wrote that music, Kokoro, Spirit of the Heart. So that's how it connects to the dance, because in the dance performances, I'm actually doing some sword movements, but they're translated through the sword. There's a bit of Tai Chi in there, a bit of Aikido. So what you're seeing with all these movements is actually martial arts sometimes. Secret, don't tell anybody. Anyway, so I then went on to the next challenge. I've just released my Lady Samurai, the final cut. It's a bit of a pun in that, actually, the final cut. You editors and film makers will know what that means. Cut the film and don't cut yourself with a sword. And we released it a couple of weeks ago, but it's took a long time. I took my 7th dan in 2002. Sadly, that time, Haruna Sensei, my teacher, he was dying and he just passed away. So I suddenly felt I was alone on my journey. And I think some of you all know, the aloneness. And I found myself writing more music again, which is why I connected with the yin and yang. So I felt going down the dojo and practicing, doing any martial art, the sword, the jo, the Tai Chi, whatever, I suddenly found it was helping me create the sound of music. And I would do it to music sometimes, and vice versa. And that gave me the courage to then, as I say, continue to do this 7th dan grading. I failed the first 2 attempts because I was borrowed swords. And this was another lesson. I was using swords that didn't spiritually connect with me. So on the 3rd attempt, I thought, I must have my own sword. And I couldn't take my 400-year sword with me because that would have been taken by the police in Japan, because they would, you can't get back out of the country. It's a treasure. So I asked the makers in Japan, could you make me a sword as close as to this sword as you can? And to cut a long story short, they did. I went to Japan and I was told to go to Japan quietly. Don't tell anybody you're going. This was by my then Japanese teacher, who was lovely, Astra Sensei. And I couldn't understand why, but I think some of you all understand it. Unfortunately, there's politics and there's difficulties, and some of the words people can't, they try to obstruct you. And I'm sorry to say, being a female in the martial arts world, it was really hard. And there were lots of times when I felt extremely lonely. But now I realise that was a gift. because it taught me how to bear it and how to come through. And how I can share the strength of that with other ladies or men. It doesn't matter, man, woman, elderly person, child. We all get these blockages and feelings. And how do we transcend them and go through them? That was a very, very important lesson for me. And eventually, through the determination and the passion, I was successful. And I came back and I'd filmed the journey, but I'd filmed it for my brother, who was then sadly dying. And I wanted to share the experience with him. We'd shared all our martial arts together. We taught children, corporate businesses, social services. Oh gosh, if we were teaching all sorts of people more of a self-defense system. And I loved being with my brother. He was wonderful. So to know he wasn't going to be there to share that was really hard. But there was another important reason. I just felt it didn't matter if I passed or was successful. It was my journey, but I was at least going to try. So if I could try, why can't other people try it? Whatever is your chosen ambition, vision, your desire, why not really, really try to do it? So that was my reason. And it's took me, over 20 years to release it, because I felt the time wasn't right. There was a lot of negativity and jealousies and all sorts of things that you experience in life. And I found I was my worst enemy. And I thought, I'm stopping myself because of the fear of what people think, why I did it, and who am I, And I just thought, no, there's a really powerful message here. I want to help others. I want to share it. Laugh at me if you want to. Yes, I put my chopstick in the wrong way in the bowl. Yes, I left my earrings on because I just did a 27-hour flight into Japan, and you're not supposed to wear earrings when you practice it, but these were the lovely dangly bits, And I thought, and I just laughed at myself. I thought, oh, look at me, I look really silly, don't I? But that gave me an inspiration. Again, we've all got humour, and what does humour do in our life? Makes us laugh, makes us get through difficult times sometimes. So I have found martial arts and music are my yin and yang. If I'm really feeling difficult or sad, then I will go and do one or the other, and sometimes both. And with the performance I did earlier, I get into a mindset where I'm just trying to connect with the mind, body, spirit. Because Iaido is about mind, body, spirit coming together. And it's very difficult to do. I'm sure when some of you may meditate, the hardest thing is to relax, to clear your mind. How do you know you've cleared your mind? Because your mind will be telling you one thing, but it's really telling you another thing. So you're talking to yourself. Well, your mind's not clear, is it, if you're talking to yourself? So, anyway, from that point of view. So I suddenly thought, right, what else can I share with people? And we talked about values earlier on, and I'd like to share the values of the Hakam. I'm just going to put this down for a moment. We have values, which I think are really lovely. So the 5 pleats here have a value, not in any particular order, but we have respect, loyalty, humility, honour, compassion. That word compassion, the softness of the heart and the mind, but also the importance of compassion. And I feel that can release us to do amazing things. Because if you hold and harbour no anger, then you haven't got a negative feeling in your heart, and therefore your heart can be soft. And I think that's important. And these 5 values, there's one pleat at the back here, one pleat at the back, so you can see that. And the 5 pleats, we try to work towards becoming the one pleat, which means all of those values become one. I think it probably translates into your own arts, doesn't it, and systems. My mission now, I've realised the mission is just to share what I've learnt. There's lots of things, but I suppose to summarise, I have learnt believe in yourself. Absolutely believe in yourself. And it doesn't matter if people try to put you down or try to stop you. Navigate your way. Use your martial arts skills like a pen. Write a letter or something that will find another way. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. I think there's actually a true statement in that. And also the wonderful expression, perfection is a moving target. Well, it is, isn't it? Miyamoto Musashi said that perfection's a moving target. So you're never perfect at your art, but you strive to be. And the other thing I've learned is, again from Miyamoto Musashi sort of philosophy, is if you enter the battle, be prepared to die. That's, well, metaphorically speaking, okay, on the battlefield, you know what you're up against. But how many times in the business world, in our home, family life, with our friends or anybody you see, there's a battle going on. So you have to stand up for yourself and have belief. But if you go in with a true heart and compassion, I have found it's a way to calm things. It's a way to get a resolution because you can think clearer. The Chinese proverb, he who shouts loses the battle. Well, isn't it true? Because while you're shouting, are you really listening and taking the energy into what's really going on? So I think it's important, and it's why I asked the question earlier, when I go into different environments, and I think because you are all practitioners as well, you would appreciate, you pick up on energies. You might not have met somebody, but you know instantly there's some negativity or anger in them. You may go into another environment where it's very calm and loving, or another environment where it's completely hostile and you think, oh, how am I going to manage this? Oh, so anyway, but it's all lessons in life. I'm just going to finalise now with just showing you my sword. Now, this actually isn't my shinken. I try not to travel around with it too much, but this is my treasured Iaido, and this was a gift from my sensei, Japanese sensei, for passing my Nanadan in Japan. And I was so thrilled when he presented this with the maker. In fact, he shared the gift with the gentleman who made my sword, my shinken, that I passed with. And I can't begin to tell you how that felt. I just felt so honoured. And I didn't think, as I said, I'd actually passed. But I treasure this gift. So when we wear the sword, it goes into the what we call the obi. I'll just do a couple of cuts so you can hear a sound. And the reason I'm doing this is because it connects with the music and the martial arts, the yin and yang. The sword has a sound of its own. I'll take this off as well. Each sword sings. So if you can make it sing, you can get that beautiful sound. So if I just draw the sword here, so if I just go to the side, okay? So when we're learning this is a very basic cut. We go above the head and then we step forward and we cut. But can you hear that sort of sound, okay? If I do it a bit lighter, you hear a slightly different sound. Can you hear it? So, ooh. So it's almost like a little bit of an octave, okay? Now, I'll do this side so you can hear maybe a different sound now. So from here, that was a higher sound, wasn't it? Can you see? Then if I cut horizontal, listen to the sound again. Can you see that sound? So what you have is when you're cutting and we're doing katas, you'll get different sounds. The other beautiful thing is from here, which I really like. When you do, so this is what's called an ochi, but it's a cleaning of the sword. It's a big action. Can you hear this little sound there? But it's softer because we're not cutting. Then there's an action where we go up, we check the opponent is hopefully incapacitated, oops, and then we go back. And then we do what's called the noto, where we put the sword away or put it home, okay? Now, so you see, there's a lot of gentleness about it. It's a very gentle, beautiful, peaceful art. It's not about hurting someone. But the other lovely thing about it is when I did that action of coming up and checking here, and even when I'm doing the noto, what I'm imparting is respect and compassion. So I don't want, in the imaginary world of being in the battlefield, I never wanted to kill anyone. But if I had to, because I have to save others, then I've done it with respect and compassion. And when I come up, I'm using my true heart. So I think that's an amazing connection to, all the presentations today. So I'll leave you with that. And as I say, just be gentle with yourselves. Use your true heart and true feeling. Thank you.